Hello students, my name is Nidhi Singh. I am from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Hyderabad. In the present module, we will be learning about World Fertility Survey from the paper Fertility. In this module, we will be learning about the aims and objectives of World Fertility Survey, countries involved in World Fertility Survey, survey contents, fertility related modules, technical assistance, data processing and its major findings. Let's have a look at the background of World Fertility Survey, that is WFS. It is an international research program designed to assist countries, particularly in the developing world, to carry out scientifically designed sample surveys of human fertility behavior. Officially announced in 1972, the WFS is being undertaken by the International Statistical Institute (ISI) with the collaboration of the United Nations and in cooperation with the International Union for Science Study of Population (IUSSP). The WFS is financed by grants to the ISI from the United Nations Fund for Population Activities, that is UNFPA, and the US Agency for International Development, that is USAID. Contributions from other countries, notably the United Kingdom and Canada, supplement the funds provided by the two principal donors. The primary aim of the WFS program is to provide each participating country with accurate demographic data, to describe and interpret the fertility of its population. The availability of this information should facilitate national efforts in social, economic, health and population planning. Two ancillary objectives of WFS are to increase the capability for undertaking fertility and other demographic survey research in developing countries, and to provide researchers in participating countries and the world at large the opportunity to make international comparisons on data about fertility levels and differentials, family size ideals, and knowledge and practice of fertility regulation. The surveys are nationally representative and generally include both a household and an individual, that is female component. There were 42 WFS conducted in developing countries. Surveys were carried out by a national agency, often the Statistical Office. The surveys covered reproductive health, household characteristics such as family composition and marital status. Often, surveys included additional topics such as water and sanitation, mortality, economic status, assets, religion and race. In addition, there were 20 WFS conducted in developed countries. These surveys used a set of instruments modified from those used for the developing countries. Portugal used these instruments but received technical and financial assistance from the developing country program. The WFS studies undertaken in participant countries are generally single round surveys of households so selected as to provide a national probability sample. Eligible women are identified by means of a household screening interview and later are interviewed according to a thorough interview schedule known as the individual or core questionnaire. Eligible women are generally defined as being ever married and under the age of 50. The marital criterion has been dropped in many surveys, however, particularly those carried out in Latin American and Caribbean region, and replaced by a simple age criterion. The number of women interviewed or the sample size varies from country to country, generally ranging from 3,000 to 10,000. Sample size depends on such considerations as the size of the country's population and its heterogeneity, the organizational capacities and analytical interest of the country, and the availability of national and international financing. As of the end of April 1979, 42 developing countries were participating in the WFS program. A further 3 were scheduled to join before the end of 1979. Yet another 7 had showed some interest in conducting surveys under the WFS aegis at some time in the future. The earliest surveys undertaken in connection with the WFS were in Asia and the Pacific. Attention later focused on Latin America and the Caribbean, followed by Africa and the Middle East. Published reports on survey findings are currently available for 15 developing countries, including 9 from Asia and the Pacific and 6 from Latin America. Reports from another 5 countries are in various stages of preparation, 4 from Latin America and the Caribbean, and 1 from the Middle East. There are 21 surveys still in the fieldwork or initial data processing stages, including those of all 9 African participants. Although accurate predictions of the progress of work are difficult, it is hoped that between 23 and 27 country reports will be published by the end of 1979. The WFS program is principally oriented to developing countries, but developed countries also participate, although without external financial support. The major responsibility for coordination of developed country surveys has been assumed by the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNECE, in close collaboration with the WFS. At present, there are 20 developed countries at varying stages of work on fertility surveys. Fieldwork has already been completed in 17 countries and 4 initial country reports have been published. The survey contents. WFS has developed a large set of material to aid and guide countries in carrying out their surveys. These include the household schedule for the screening interview, the individual questionnaire, various modules which can be incorporated into the individual or household questionnaires, and manuals for national project directors and their staffs. The idea for this international program probably originated with Raymond Ravenholt, the forceful head of the Office of Population of the US Agency for International Development, as a means to resolve conflicting assessments of the fertility impact of family planning programs. The United Nations Fund for Population Activities gave its support for the project, and these 2 organizations became the dominant financial sponsors of the WFS. The household schedule. The household schedule is a flexible instrument which can perform various functions depending on the survey design. In the majority of countries, the design calls for interviewing all eligible women encountered in a sample household. In these countries, the household schedule may serve 3 purposes. First, it provides the listing of household members that is essential to identifying eligible respondents for the individual questionnaire. Second, by gathering data on such matters as age, sex, and marital status of household members, it provides the denominators necessary for calculating certain demographic statistics, as well as the opportunity to analyze nuptiality. Third, it provides the possibility of collecting useful contextual data on factors that may relate to fertility, such as ownership of modern objects, membership in cultural or ethnic groups, and housing conditions. In countries lacking good systems of vital registration, the household schedule may also serve to gather data on fertility. This is accomplished by appending questions on fertility to the household schedule and administering it to a sample 3 or 4 times the size necessary to obtain the desired number of eligible women for the individual questionnaire. The goal in such cases is to obtain more precise estimates of fertility, particularly current fertility, than could be provided by the smaller sample for the individual questionnaire. The household schedule becomes, in effect, a mini census, ideal for applying various types of fertility analysis. Now we'll have a look at the individual questionnaire. The recommended individual or core questionnaire of the WFS contains 7 sections of questions in 21 pages. The questions in the core questionnaire are designed to provide the following basic social, economic, demographic, and fertility data. Section 1. Respondent's background, residence and migration status, size of community in which respondent spent her formative years, age, education, and ability to read. Optional questions cover religion, language, and ethnic group. Section 2. Maternity history. Number of live births by sex and date of occurrence. incidence of pregnancy wastage, infant and child mortality, prevalence and duration of lactation for last and penultimate live birth, whether currently pregnant and, if so, expected birth date and sex preference. Section 3. Contraceptive knowledge and use. Knowledge and use of contraceptive methods, including perceived availability of key methods of contraception. Section 4. Marriage history. Complete marital history, dates of initiation and termination of unions, used as proxy for length of exposure to risk of pregnancy, adapted as necessary for non-legal and informal unions. Section 5. Fertility regulation. Capacity and desire for more children, the number desired and preference concerning the sex of the next child. For ever users of contraception, information on current use or use since last pregnancy. For never users, information on intention to use in the future. Section 6. Work history. Detailed occupational information on respondents' work both before and after marriage. Section 7. Current or last husband's background. His education, ability to read, type of community in which formative years were spent, occupation, and age. The individual questionnaire is regarded as a core. Virtually all countries want to add to it in one way or the other, and some wish to alter one or more sections to suit their needs. Because of its mandate to yield internationally comparable data, the WFS developed core instruments to be used in all developing countries. These consisted of a household schedule or roster and a more detailed questionnaire to be administered to ever married women of reproductive age. Single women were also included in some surveys. Only 3 of the 44 surveys also canvassed husbands. The core questionnaire for women included complete marriage and pregnancy histories and sections on socioeconomic background, contraception, breastfeeding, and fertility preferences. This content was not linked to any theory of fertility, but provided ideal for demographic description. The survey allowed a degree of flexibility in the form of optional sets of questions that permitted more in-depth analysis of specific topics. Only 2 such modules were commonly used, one on family planning and one that inquired into biological determinants of childbearing other than contraception. The imperative to maximize quality of information drove the data collection strategy. Questionnaires were carefully translated into all major languages. Female interviewers were specially recruited and intensively trained. They worked in teams under close supervision. Major efforts were put into producing clean, well-documented, standardized data sets, a pioneering emphasis that WFS's successor, the Demographic and Health Surveys project, has maintained. Fertility-related modules. As an aid to countries wishing to investigate certain topics in greater depth than that afforded by the core questionnaire, various modules or sets of questions have been developed by the WFS, consultants and staff. Each module consists of a series of questions on a particular topic and can be added either in part or in total to the core questionnaire. The modules deal with 2 kinds of variables, those which affect fertility directly and those which may affect fertility indirectly. The modules dealing principally with variables which affect fertility directly are Fertility Regulation Module. This is an expansion of section 5 of the core questionnaire with questions on contraceptive use in the last closed and open birth interval, including a question on whether the last birth was wanted. Family Planning Module. This module is usually used in conjunction with the Fertility Regulation Module. Questions deal with visits to places where family planning advice and supplies may be obtained, satisfaction with service, when contraception was started and which method, approval, disapproval of contraception by never users, and reasons for discontinuation of last contraceptive method. Abortion Module. Questions are added to section 2 of the core questionnaire to probe for infertile pregnancies in each live birth interval to determine whether any spontaneous abortion occurred. Questions are added to section 3 to measure the respondents' attitude towards induced abortion. The module is not recommended for use in countries where anti-abortion laws are rigorously enforced or where the topic of abortion is politically sensitive. Factors other than contraception affecting fertility. This module measures the effect of intermediate variables which lie casually between fertility and the cultural, social and economic milieu. Questions treat lactation, postpartum amenorrhea, abstinence and temporary separation of partners 3 or more months in the penultimate and last pregnancy interval, coital frequency in the last 7 days and age at menarche and menopause. Modules which deal principally with variables which may affect fertility indirectly are community level variables. This module deals with variables which characterize a community and affect most of the persons living in it, such as presence or absence of a hospital, transportation and communication facilities, health facilities, family planning facilities, education and agriculture and or industrial development levels. The collection of a community level data is a supplementary investigation which requires conducting interviews with community leaders, consulting reference works and or simply observing the community itself. The module contents are always adapted to the needs of the country. General mortality module. Many countries with deficient system for the recording of vital events may be interested in measuring mortality in addition to fertility. This module is added to the household schedule to obtain information on deaths of household member in the 24 months preceding the interview, survival of first spouse, survival of parents, whether the person being interviewed is an eldest living offspring, and survival of offspring of ever married women. Economic variables. 3 modules have been developed which deal in turn with family income, asset holding and economic cost and benefit of children. These modules are always adapted to the needs of the country. The uses of questionnaire modules. Most countries so far enrolled in the program have chosen to adopt 2 or more WFS questionnaire modules. Virtually all countries have opted for one of the 3 fertility control modules: family planning, fertility regulation or factors other than contraception affecting fertility. In Asia and Latin America, wide use has been made of the fertility regulation and or the family planning modules. All 9 African countries have used the module on factors other than contraception affecting fertility, except Morocco, which has used the fertility regulation and family planning modules. Parts of the abortion module have been used in almost half of the participating countries. Much less use has been made of the modules dealing with variables indirectly affecting fertility, although the 15 countries which have collected community level data are well distributed geographically. Technical assistance. The principal function of the WFS headquarters professional staff based in London and now numbering more than 40 is to assist developing countries to carry out and analyze their fertility surveys. Assistance is provided at all stages, including questionnaire and sample designs, interviewer training, fieldwork, coding, editing of data, data processing and report writing. Initially, various manuals were developed by WFS staff not only to ensure the collection of high quality data, but also to aid personnel in the participating countries to establish a survey organization, set standards for training of survey personnel, carry out the fieldwork and process, and analyze the data as efficiently as possible. Some of the manuals such as Survey Organization Manual, Manual on Sample Design and Training Manual are used for information and reference. Other manuals such as Interviewers Instructions, Supervisors Instructions and Guidelines for Data Processing are adapted to fit local survey conditions and reprinted to be used in training and data processing. The amount and nature of technical assistance required by individual countries varies a great deal, as might be expected. In general, the heaviest inputs of assistance are required at the data processing and report writing stages. In this connection, the WFS has developed several innovations that have permitted participating countries to produce their published reports of findings less than 18 months after the completion of fieldwork. This exceptionally rapid publication of survey results permits analysts and government officials to deal with data that are still current and relevant to policy and program needs. These innovations described below relate primarily to data processing. Data processing. 2 stages of data processing must be completed before the first country report can be written. The first is data editing or cleaning. The second is the production of statistical tables. For years, the least developed phase of the processing of social surveys has been that of data editing. Fortunately, at about the time the WFS recognized a need for the development of a general purpose editing package for computer use. The UN Regional Demographic Center for Latin America, CELADE, was engaged in developing just such a package named Concord. The WFS has worked closely with CELADE in adapting and improving the various components of Concord. As a result of the use of Concord, the interval between the end of fieldwork and the start of tabulations has been reduced from a range of 10 to 16 months in the case of early WFS surveys to an average now of 4 to 6 months. Since Concord is a generalized system, once installed in a country, it can be used for cleaning other surveys and census elsewhere. For the production of tables to be included in country reports, the WFS recommended using CoSense, a tabulation package developed by the US Bureau of the Census. Unique advantages of CoSense are its adaptability to many different computers and the fact that its input may be photographed directly for publication. A major disadvantage in comparison with more sophisticated packages is the amount of programming required for even the simplest tables. As an answer to this problem, the WFS developed a program called COCGen for CoSense Generator, which permits the preparation of tables in a much simplified form and prepares the parameters for later use by the CoSense program. As a result, the time required for programming and running tabulations has been cut in the case of some countries to as little as 3 months. As a further contribution to the state of the art and as an aid to analysts in interpreting survey results, or more precisely to help them avoid attributing significance to the insignificant results, the WFS has developed a program for the calculation of sampling errors and associated statistics, named as clusters, which stands for Computation and Listing of Useful Statistics on Errors of Sampling. The program has powerful recoding routines. It is easy to set up and can be run on relatively small computers. Country reports, as standard practice, now contain an appendix presenting detailed sampling error calculations. First country reports. Barring some exceptional cases, first country reports on survey findings are prepared in country by the National Survey Staff. Technical assistance is provided by staff from London or by special consultants as needed. To guide countries in preparing their reports, the WFS had prepared a documentary entitled Guidelines or Country Report Number 7. Specifications are set out for some 200 tables along with guidelines and cautions concerning how these tables are to be interpreted. A companion document, Guidelines or Data Processing, currently in draft form, describes how variables used in the analysis are to be defined and formulated. By introducing an element of standardization into the production of first country reports, the WFS has helped countries to publish reports consisting of 400 to 500 pages of tables and 100 to 150 pages of text within a 12 to 18 month period after the end of the fieldwork. As noted earlier, 15 reports have thus far been published and another 5 are in progress. Although of limited analytical content, these reports contain a wealth of data useful to demographers, social scientists, and program and policy planners throughout the world. Further analysis of data. To ensure adequate use and application of the data, the WFS encourages countries to prepare projects for further analysis of their data. Both USAID and UNFPA have declared their willingness to finance such projects. The principal problem faced by the WFS is the provision of technical assistance in the formulation and execution of sophisticated analysis projects. Headquarters manpower is already fully occupied in providing assistance to countries in carrying out surveys and preparing the first reports. As a partial solution to this problem, it was decided that the WFS should publish a series of illustrative analysis on important topics. These are supplemented by a series of technical bulletins containing expositions of specific substantive and methodological issues arising in data analysis. A set of 12 topics has been identified for illustrative analysis. The analyses are being carried out by both WSF staff and invited experts. The studies will use country data now available and will be published in a monograph form. They are intended to serve as models of the basic research possible with WFS data. A series of 10 technical bulletins is being prepared to supplement the illustrative analysis. The survey director of the Nepal Fertility Survey, Jayanti Tuladhar, makes his way on foot to survey pre-test areas in Gorkha village, December 1975. The village is 8 hours walk from the nearest point, accessible by motor vehicle, and used techniques of analysis, while others are quite innovative. The titles and authors of these bulletins are the following. 1. Some notes on statistical problems likely to arise in the analysis of WFS surveys. Author Sir Maurice Kendall. 2. Path analysis and model building authors Sir Maurice Kendall and CEO Marchetta. 3. Standardization. Author T. Pullum. 4. Suggested fertility measures from the WFS core questionnaire. Author T. Pullum. 5. Generalized linear models for cross-classified data from the WFS. Author R. Little. 6. Birth interval analysis. Author K. Srinivasan. 7. Estimation of fertility trends from birth data. Author W. Brass. 8. Results of the evaluation of the Fiji survey data. Authors A. Coel and J. Potter. 9. The Own Children method. Author L. Jo Cho. 10. Life table methods. Author D. Smith. Bulletins 1 to 3 and 5 have been published. Bulletin 4, 6 and 7 are under discussion, and bulletins 8 to 10 are being drafted. These technical bulletins, together with the illustrative analysis, are expected to provide sound guidance for countries interested in pursuing further analysis of their survey data. To date, only a handful of countries have submitted projects for further analysis to the finding agencies. With the publication of the illustrative analysis, enthusiasm for in-depth analysis of the WFS surveys is expected to increase. Because of the international scope, promise, and impact of the World Fertility Survey, great interest has been aroused. The first findings have been awaited with curiosity. One of the principal aims of this overview is to highlight findings from the first 15 published reports on the topics of past and present fertility levels, preferences concerning fertility, age at marriage and marital stability, and knowledge, availability, and use of contraceptive methods. These data are drawn from 9 countries in the Asia and Pacific region, including Bangladesh, Fiji, Indonesia, South Korea, Malaysia, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, and 6 countries in Latin America, including Colombia, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Panama, and Peru. Major findings. Declining fertility. Data from the World Fertility Survey and other sources indicate that a dramatic decline in fertility levels is underway in many parts of the developing world. Among the 15 countries studied here, there are only 3 possible exceptions: Bangladesh, Nepal, and Pakistan. In the other 12 countries, fertility is clearly declining. Perhaps the best way of illustrating this in summary form is to compare the number of children women of ages 45 to 49 have had in their lives, representing past fertility, with the current total fertility rate estimated from the survey data. The TFR essentially indicates what completed family size will be if the fertility rates now prevailing among women in Costa Rica and Panama, the women surveyed, were aged 20 to 49. In all other countries, aged 15 to 49. Some caution is necessary as the TFR is based on all women, while the other figures are based on ever married women. But in common countries, 98% or more of women 45 to 49 have been married. In these cases, the difference in the choice of denominators has little effect on the comparison. In some countries, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Mexico, Panama, and Peru, where about 95% of women 40 to 45 age have been married, and Costa Rica, where about 90% have been married, the difference in denominators exaggerates somewhat the extent of the fertility decline. The most dramatic case of recent, sustained and appreciable fertility decline is the case of already well documented of Costa Rica. There, ever married women 45 to 49 have had a mean of 7.2 live births, while the current total fertility rate is just 3.8. Almost equally impressive but less well known are the cases of Colombia and Thailand. For Colombia, the figures are 7.3 compared with 4.2, for Thailand 6.8 compared with 4.5. The WFS has also gathered evidence of fertility decline in countries where such declines had not been identified previously. In the Dominican Republic, the respective figures are 6.8 and 5.4, and in Peru, where family planning until recently was positively discouraged and where there is still no national family planning program, even though the use of traditional contraceptive methods is widespread, the figures are 6.9 and 5.3. The existence of family planning programs does not seem to be a prerequisite for the onset of a fertility decline in situations like that of Peru, although clearly such programs have played an important role in lowering fertility in countries like Costa Rica and Korea, and might have made possible an even more rapid decline in Peru had they existed there. Fertility preferences. Changes in fertility preferences are also documented in the WFS data. Of the currently married fecund women who were questioned, about half want no more children. This figure ranges from more than 60% in Bangladesh, South Korea, Sri Lanka, Colombia, Panama, and Peru to about 30% in Nepal. Interviewing some 350,000 women in 42 developing countries and 20 developed countries representing nearly 40% of the world's population, the WFS is in a unique position to document the historic 1970s slowdown in global population growth. Marital fertility has declined in all developing regions except Africa, but still averages from 4.6 children per woman in Latin America to 6.7 in Africa, while preferred family size ranges from 3 children in Turkey to 8.9 in Senegal, far above the average 2.2 to 2.5 children per woman, needed to end developing countries' population growth in the long run. However, women ages 15 to 19 prefer nearly 2 children fewer than the oldest women ages 45 to 49, 3.8 versus 5.7 on the average. Nearly half, that is 48% of the married women surveyed in 27 countries said that they wanted no more children. Preventing all unwanted births would reduce birth rate up to 15 births per 1,000 population in these countries. Overall, 32% of the married fecund women in developing countries are using contraception compared to an average 72% in 16 developed countries. Education, literacy, and more available family planning services increase contraceptive use. Age at marriage is rising in Asia, but this factor alone has little effect on fertility. Infant mortality is higher in many developing countries than previously thought. Breastfeeding is an important restraint on fertility in most developing countries, but is declining among more educated, employed, and urban women, which could raise fertility if not compensated for by gains in contraceptive use. Conclusion. A total of 66 countries comprising about 40% of the world's population participated in the World Fertility Survey. The WFS is thus by far the most ambitious project ever undertaken by ISI and probably the largest social survey ever attempted. In terms of sampling and data collection, the methodology of the project was exemplary. The data processing record is less satisfactory because of an initial failure to foresee the complexity of the issues and the magnitude of the practical problems. In its later years, the project made an unexpectedly major contribution to analytic methodology. So far, the main contribution to knowledge has been to confirm the downward trend in fertility that characterized most of Asia and Latin America in the 1970s, and to highlight the contrast with Africa, where both fertility and the desire of large number of children remain high. So far, important new insights into the cause of fertility change have not emerged, but attempts to synthesize the vast ranges of WFS findings have only just begun, and it is thus premature to make any final assessment of this aspect of the project. The WFS thus was one of the most important international undertakings in demographic data collection and analysis of 20th century. Between 1973 and 84, 66 countries carried out comparable surveys of human fertility. 44 of these were developing countries that received substantial financial and technical assistance channeled through WFS headquarters. Thus, an impressive geographical coverage was achieved, though some of the world's largest countries, including China, India, Brazil, and the Soviet Union, declined to participate. The WSF developed a formidable analytic capacity to complement its data collection expertise. The survey made significant contributions to analytic methods, such as the adaptation of linear models to individual level measures of fertility and the application of hazard models to event histories. Its contribution to greater understanding of the determinants of fertility change was neither less impressive nor did it provide a conclusive answer to key policy questions concerning the impact of state-sponsored family planning programs. The name of the enterprise notwithstanding, the WFS's contribution to an understanding of childhood mortality probably exceeded its contribution to studies of fertility. Thank you.